Welcome to Indian Tech Icon Spotlight, where we celebrate tech leadership and unpack the minds behind the mission. I'm Sheetal Acharya, and let's welcome our guest on the spotlight today, Sangeetha Varghese, who is a transformative data leader turning strategy into actions with people first precision. Hi, Sangeetha, welcome to our spotlight today, and it's really wonderful to host you today and really looking forward for our conversation.
Happy to be here, Sheetal. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank
so,
you.
Sangeetha, let's start with knowing you, the leadership in you, from where it all started.
I say that my career is like a little bit all over the place often. It's not a very straight line. So I'll start with my undergrad. So I finished my undergrad in electronics and communication engineering from Cochin University of Science and Technology. So this is in Kerala. That's where I was raised. The interesting part about that is I didn't really have much of a focus when I was doing my undergrad. So I took things easy, didn't really have a plan. And then I was fascinated by business. So I decided to go into business. Did that for a few years. Then circumstances changed, and I decided I wanted to join like a corporate career. I also used to teach part-time when I was in business, which I really enjoyed. Like I loved being with my students. But anyway, long story short, I joined Reliance, the Anil Ambani group, in their telco division in project management. Did that for a couple of years, and then I was seeing that I liked management, but it seemed to advance, I needed an MBA. So then I decided to pursue my MBA, moved to Calgary. So I did my MBA at Haskayne, University of Calgary. And then I went into management consulting. I didn't want to do tech. I wanted to do general management consulting. So I did that for about 4.5 years. And then started getting a little bored. So, through some introductions, joined Shaw Communications at the time, it's now Rogers, in a data governance role. And I really didn't know anything about data. And I remember asking my hiring manager, why would you hire me? And he said, I want to hire you for your consulting skills. So that's how I ended up joining Shaw. And I was never sure that was the right place for me. But, one thing led to the other. And I ended up spending almost 7 years at Shaw in the data role. And, career growth also came with it. And then I took a break. Again, when I don't feel challenged, then I become a bit unhappy. So I took a break and then joined Wawanesa. That's where I am right now, leading the data and AI enablement team.
So, Sangeetha, could you please, share a bit about your current profile? Like, what are your day-to-day responsibilities like?
My role is Director for Data and AI Enablement. And that really has two aspects. There's a data enablement piece, which is data governance. How do you make sure that you deliver trusted data to the organization? And so that includes, there's a technical angle to it. There's a big cultural angle to it. There's data literacy. All that is part of data enablement. And then in AI enablement, I have AI governance. So I'm accountable for that, as well as how do you create a system where there are lots of ideas in AI and you take them through a funnel of business value and then, throughout the whole life cycle, right up to decommissioning and making sure it's all done in a responsible manner. So responsible use of AI is my theme on the AI side.
So being on the ethical side?
So that's one piece of it. We have like a list of principles, robustness, free of bias, transparency, making sure like data privacy is respected throughout AI. So we have a bunch of different principles there, but making sure we are on the right side of the ethical conversation is, yeah.
So, Sangeetha, how do you kind of focus on the innovation or the future innovation versus the continuous business value that has to be there?
It's like having both perspectives at the same time, right? Like you always have to have that long-term horizon. And we often say, if you're closing a door, make sure you know the implications of that, right? So try to keep as many options open as you go through your day to day. And there are things that have to happen every day. So, I have a team. And so setting them up for success so they can run is important. And then from a strategic perspective, I should spend time thinking about what is the strategy and how are we going to get there? And then being opportunistic about it, because you can have a perfect roadmap, but things don't go as per plan. So when something changes and there's an opportunity, you want to go, oh, we could use that to say advance literacy or, whatever it is. So I think it's being active and making sure you're balancing both all the time.
Absolutely. So you talked about teams. So in a world full of dashboards, how do you
Yeah.
ensure that your teams see the larger picture?
That's a hard question, because it also, your team is not one monolith. You have different personalities, and some people naturally think about the business value, some people don't. So it's really understanding what each team member needs, but also making sure that you've talked about the strategy, people understand what it is. One of the things we focus on is the use of data, use of AI. So anytime I ask my team about something, my challenge to them is think about how someone's going to use it. Because it's easy to get into the technical flow of data and all the systems and the coding and the bugs. But at the end of the day, if someone's not using it, you just wasted a bunch of money, right? So it's a bit of a reminder. It's also a reminder for me to not get caught up in the strategies and the, all of that, and not lose sight of business value. So I think it's constant, but understanding your team intimately is important.
So Sangeetha, in a world where everything is driven by metrics,
Yeah.
how do you ensure that your team members, they feel that they have been kind of heard, and the leaders are listening to them? How do you manage that aspect?
It's being available to your team, I think, is important. So I make sure I spend some time with my team. And when I have my one-on-ones, I always tell them, this is your time. This is your opportunity to ask me questions. Like, nothing's off the table. And, I tell my team, use me. If you have a question that you want to ask someone else, but you don't feel confident, ask me. I will ask it on your behalf. And also, it has to be a safe space for them. It takes time, right? It's like any relationship. I can't show up and say, hey, I'll be your friend. And and friendship is nice to come out of a workplace, but that's not the only goal. So I think just being available for my team, understanding what gets them going. Like, I get a lot of joy when someone starts doing something and then they go, you can see the passion. So I always try to figure out what's that sweet spot for people and how can we create that based on the work we need to do. And for that, I think you have to think beyond titles. You have to learn more about people, right? Like, what's their background? Where did they go to school? Why did they do that program? What's happening with the families? Because if you have young kids, then, it changes things. So I think really getting to know them is important.
Do you believe in giving constructive feedback?
Absolutely. I usually don't call it constructive feedback, but usually, you're working with someone on something. My feedback is in the moment. I'm not making a list to say at the end of the year, hey, these are all the things I didn't like. At the end of the day, we're there to get work done and to move the company forward. So for me, it's all about timeliness in feedback is important. And, sometimes when it comes to specific work deliverables, and maybe if there's like a conflict or something like that, timeliness is important. Sometimes if it's about career progression or how people can develop themselves, maybe that's a separate conversation, a bit more thoughtful conversation. But if it's things that are not working well, you have to give that feedback right away is my...
It has to be instant.
Yeah. And I want to get it that way too. I want my leader to give me feedback right away.
Let's talk a bit about leadership styles.
Yeah.
So you have seen the consulting side, now you are on the tech side. You have seen like both worlds in a way. So how do you see yourself getting evolved as a leader, and what are the qualities you feel that you have developed over all these years?
In the corporate environment, when I started being an individual contributor, I remember my sister telling me, your boss should be happy at all times. That was my goal, right? She's like, as you go about your day, this is what you should think about. And it's not like a superficial happiness. It's a deep, like, is he satisfied, right? So that's your focus. And then I've learned that as I've grown in, leadership and roles and so on, the focus just shifts away from yourself and to the team. So my number one job is making sure my team has everything they need, right? Whether it's they're blocked by something, they can't get something from another team, it is my job to unblock that. That's my number one priority. And my boss would come second, I would say now, not first. Whereas earlier on, it was like whatever my boss wants, right?
So, Sangeetha, what's the difference if I ask you between a good leader and a great leader? What's that one distinguishing quality that you feel is there?
When you talk about greatness in leaders, I think they're able to inspire people to give more than what is required. A good leader will make sure everything is getting done, and it's still good and you need to be good. But I think the greatness comes when you can rally people around and people are not thinking about, hey, I'm getting paid this much, why am I putting an extra hour? So for me, that's where that greatness comes in.
And is there anything in your overall career where you think that, or you have done any kind of unlearning? Being a leader, whatever you have learned before, that you need to unlearn. Like there are certain things sometimes.
The unlearning is sometimes, we're human, so we're always trying to assess people, right? Like when you have a team, you know what their title is, maybe you see a little bit of their work, and it's easy to put people in a box, but being active about understanding what they are, looking beyond titles is also something that you learn. I think when you're early in your career, or at least it was for me, you get overwhelmed or intimidated by bigger titles, and you don't know that you can ask a question, or you don't have that confidence. But as you get older and more confidence and more experience, you understand there's always a person behind. And not all companies are like that. There are companies where the title matters a lot, and you have to think about that when you navigate. I personally don't do well in organizations like that. I want to be able to talk about the business at hand, talk to the person to person. So that's, I think, one that I would share.
Is there any leadership advice that you have received any time in your career that you kind of value, or kind of that has been a learning for you?
I would say, I don't know that you would categorize that into leadership, but I would say one of the advice that really helped me is one of my previous bosses. When we got to know each other, she was setting out her expectations, and she said, my expectation of you is that if you go into a meeting and you've spent your time in the meeting, you understand what is going on. Don't walk away and say, I don't know what they talked about. So that then, because I wanted to please my boss at the time, that got me to ask questions. And so then I'm not scared of asking questions. And so a lot of people who are not used to me will sometimes think that I ask too many questions. I try to ask it as nice as possible, but it really comes from a place of understanding. And I think that's important for whether it's like the subject matter or learning about your team member. It's asking questions from a place of wanting to learn.
Sangeetha, I'm curious to know, how was young Sangeetha like, from your childhood days?
Yeah.
If you could share that with us.
Absolutely. I was born in Nigeria. My parents were working there, and I was born into a missionary campus. So that meant there were people from all over the world there. There were people from Australia, America, and I would just go about by myself into all these houses. So I think I've been a people person from like a young age. My mom will say that I used to be able to speak in the accent of whoever I was interacting with. I can't do that anymore. When I was 5, we moved back to India, and that's where I did rest of my education until my undergrad. And again, for me, in my memories, a lot of it is people and me just walking around and walking in the town, and I know a lot of people. I think that's my strength, or it's also what I need. It's my strength, but if I don't get it, I don't do well. So people connection is important. So childhood, we have parents and 2 siblings. They're older than me, so I was the youngest. So the 2 of them are closer in age. So I was always kind of the last one. So I had to go fend for myself, I think.
More pampered.
My sisters will say I was more pampered. I am the youngest. And then I remember just like, hanging out with friends. I grew up so when we moved back to India, most of my growing up was in a smaller town called Muatupura. It's close to Cochin. And our house is by paddy fields. So I'd just be on my bike, out and about, talking to everybody in the neighborhood. That's my memory of a childhood. Yeah.
Fond memories.
Yeah.
So, when we were talking offline, you also mentioned about having interest in the classical music.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he used to sing very well. So in Nigeria, I think I always remember there's music in the house. And he would listen to all kinds of music. So we had Carnatic, South Indian classical music, movie songs, devotional songs, Hindu, Christian. So this is how I kind of grew up. So he sang very well. And I've just learned Carnatic from when I was a kid. So that was a big part of me growing up, competitions or performing and things like that. And then when I got to university, we used to do stage shows and things like that, which was just fun. And then I lost complete touch. Life happens. But during COVID, that was one of the gifts of COVID, that I restarted learning Carnatic music. And it's very different when you do it as an adult than a kid. As a kid, my dad would be on my case saying, why are you not practicing enough? But now I just do it for my own enjoyment. Yeah.
Now, Sangeetha, we are almost nearing end of our lovely conversation.
Yeah.
At the end, we have a round called as the rapid fire round.
Okay.
So I'll be asking you some questions, and I would expect some quick answers from you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. So your first question: do you organize your closet like a database?
No.
That's too much of.
Nobody wants
right?
a database organized like my closet. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever used a pie chart just to annoy your team? Not really liked by most of the people in data, I believe.
Yeah. It's more like me trying to make sense of things, but not a lot. Yeah.
Okay. What's harder, transforming data or transforming mindsets?
Mindsets.
Okay. If you had a magic button at work, what would it do?
I think when you need alignment from people to get it faster, because often it takes a lot of conversations, and I believe in actually getting people on your side, but it takes time. So it'll be nice if we can shorten that, and then we can do more things faster. Yeah.
That's a good one. Describe your job to a 5-year-old. Just try describing.
Oh, that's very hard. My mother never understands what I do. That's going to be a hard one. I will have to skip that.
Okay, let's skip that question. A song that instantly lifts your mood.
It depends on the mood I'm in. I do like to listen to classical music or Malayalam songs from the 1970s and 80s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
And then the last question. What's your go-to comfort food?
banana chips.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
That's
Banana chips from Kerala.
very nice. So that keeps you kind of always energetic
Well,
to attend your meetings?
I don't eat as much banana chips as I would want to, because that wouldn't be very healthy. But when I go to India, I usually come back with kilos of banana chips. I just love it. Yeah.
Wonderful. And you really played well, Sangeetha, and it's been lovely chatting with you. And thank you so much for sharing your experience with us about your childhood memories and also about the insights that you shared on the leadership skills.
Absolutely.
So
Thanks
wish
so
you
much for
continued
having me.
success. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheetal.